is, running it down on these niggas.
Sex, drugs, money, and murder, my nigga. You know how we get it, my nigga. Still be painting them pictures, my nigga. Ripping that raw and fucking your bitches. Sex, drugs, money, and murder. 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 Niggas, they never gon' hurt you. Niggas, they never will hurt you. Sex, drugs, money, and murder. Sex, drugs, money,
I was
and
trained
murder.
how the traps right, understand how to get that. Ran down on them niggas with a flip back. Knew I never seen another nigga live like that. I was still getting stacks back. Had to fuck around getting them packs back. Niggas.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy Bullets Gotti back with another one. Back with another one. This video right here, I was sitting the other day and I said, you know what? I gotta do a video on this whole East and West thing. You know, because I see people bringing it back up. You know, seeing the whole Puffy case, seeing, you know, Suge speaking, hearing a lot of conversations. And I was chopping it up with somebody the other day about this whole East-West thing. And I was watching Onyx's interview with Fredro Starr, and he said some pivotal things. And what people got to really take a look about it, there was no East-West beef. It was a thing about, and Pac even said it, Big even said it, Puff even said it, Suge even said it. It was about record sales. It was about who was the best label and who was selling the records. Now, we have to always remember this whole East-West beef, this whole drama that was starting in the this East and West, it started off of Dre and Snoop, you know, and before Dre and Snoop, it started with NWA, you know, and mob style going at it. And in 2025, right, I never understood why people never looked at the facts that Pac didn't die from, and Biggie didn't die from no rap beef. Pac and Biggie died off of the fact that you had the industry, the government, the police working together to stop two major labels that had two young black entrepreneurs. Just look at it, right? Look at Suge, look at Pac, look at Big, look at everybody that was involved. They all incarcerated. Big, like Suge is incarcerated, Puff is incarcerated, fighting for his freedom. And it's like, it was all planned. Like, it was planned for it to be the way it was. You know? And it always dawned on me that the industry didn't want to see these black brothers be successful. Like, they had to do what they did, right? Just understand this, right? Understand it and look at it like this, right? When the East and West popped off, now let's go back to the history. Let's go back to how it all started with Biggie and Pac, right? And Puff and Suge, right? Jake, Puff had nothing to do with the death of Big Jake, right? Wolf didn't kill Big Jake. Big Jake, and Mark Curry wrote about it. You heard Gene speak about it. It was a situation that happened at Platinum House. I had a conversation with Keith Murray about it. That it had something to do with Nicole Cook, right? Sam Cook's granddaughter, right? His daughter's daughter, right? Oldest daughter. And it was about, her, promoting, rocking with Bad Boy, rocking with Puff, and Hun Wolf was speaking, and it transpired into something that turned deadly, which ended up, with, it was an argument, right? Big Jake grabbed up the dude Bonton. Bonton was a dude that said, me not know no TV, he told that to Jake. Fast forward, they all come out, Suge, Puff, Jake, Wolf, everybody laughing, everybody talking, and they all come out, you know what I'm saying? Everything got squashed, right? Shout out to V and everything gets squashed. The kid Jason and the kid Bonton, they come shooting at Jake and Suge from across the street. Yes, they was affiliated with Wolf, but it had nothing to do with Wolf, Puff. It had nothing to do with them. And like I said, they all was cool. Bad Boy and Death Row was cool. They was all in line. Puff and Suge always, like from 92 to 91, 93, 94, they was 95, they was all partying with each other. They was all cool with each other, right? And just things got out of hand, right? Now, mind you, right? This is why I said, man, pay attention. Pay attention to all the details, right? Pac, Puff, Big, all was cool. They was cool. Puff, Pac was at Puff party. Always was at Puff parties. It's a story where Pac was on stage at Puff Christmas party at the Tunnel, and he was on stage rapping. You know what I'm saying? But they was always cool. Puff and Pac been cool since Pac's Digital Underground days. You know what I'm saying? He's always been cool. And, Pac's stepdad, Legs, he knew Melvin Combs and he was cool with him. And, they all had their affiliation with Nicky Barnes. So the Pac and Puff story is very, very interesting, right? But they always was cool, until what happened at Quad Studios. Now, in my opinion, not even my opinion, this is the facts. Puff ain't had nothing to do with what happened at Quad, nor did Big. And Pac never said Big nor Puff had anything to do with Quad Studios. He always said that it had Jack and Jimmy was responsible for that. You know what I'm saying? And like I told y'all, Scooter and Nubs was the one that came in disciplining Pac because of the hostility. Everybody said, it had something to do, like the thing with Jimmy and Pac had something to do with, Pac, disrespecting him on the phone. No, it ain't had nothing to do with that. It had a lot to do with Pac dealing with Salt and Jimmy was dealing with Salt, right? And they wasn't really cool like that. They never was cool like that, Jimmy and Pac. They was cordial, but they wasn't cool. Just the same thing like with Puff and Jimmy. They never was cool. They was cordial, right? Pac, yeah, he had a relationship with Jack, but he was really super tight with T-Black. Like I said, T-Black was who Pac was running around with, tough, going to the clubs and all that. He was always with T-Black. T-Black was his means, right? Anybody that knows, right? T-Black had him around the Ken dudes and all these dudes. They going to the Tunnel, they chilling, just like how he was chilling with Big D and Eric B and Preem and, dudes like that. He was chilling with T-Black. So, Pac was hurt, like many people. Pac, when he came out of jail, he said what he said in the Vibe article. But if people read the Vibe issue and they read his interviews during in jail, he never once said that Puff and Big had anything to do with his case or had anything to do with Quad. He always said, you know, Jimmy, Haitian Jack, Ricky Lee, those are the dudes that he basically said set him up. You get what I'm saying? He felt like that. He felt those were the dudes that did what they did to him. You know what I'm saying? And Jack was an agent. You know, he had diplomatic immunity because of his family's political ties in Haiti. You know, you see his handler, Bill Courtney, comes online. You hear him speak about Jack in high regards. The lies that they said, him getting sexually assaulted in jail, that was lies. You know, what was happening was the dude, Derek Hamilton, Bush, and Pac was having issues in Clinton. And they was going and telling Wendy Williams that son got assaulted in jail. And he never got sexually assaulted. But they said that he got assaulted in Clinton. And that didn't happen. Right? Pac had a lot of love for a lot of people. But a lot of people didn't have a lot of love for Pac. You know what I'm saying? Like Pac said, man, this is all about music. It never was what people thought it was. It was about music. You know, Big said that, Pac said that. It never was about the beefing. It was about the records. You feel me? And that's what Pac was on. You know what I'm saying? And Pac was also trying to bring the East Coast. You know, he was trying to working with, you know, Smith & Wesson, going to work with Nas. You know, him and Nas was going to do something. Buster, you know, Fat Joe. It was many dudes that was going to be on the One Nation project. Greg Nice. You know what I'm saying? There was so many people that he was going to have to be on the One Nation project. You had Scarface that was going to be on there. That was going to cease the whole tension and drama. And that's what people didn't understand, that the whole East-West beef, it was really Snoop and Dre's beef. You know, Dre and Snoop had all the issues in the South, in the West, in the East. You know what I'm saying? Because what people don't understand is what really made Pac go off the deep end and did what he did was all for what happened in Red Hook. You know, when the trailer got shot up. See, they thought Pac was in the trailer. You know what I'm saying? They thought Pac was in the trailer. But he wasn't. And when Pac heard that, that's what angered him. That's what made them do the NY 87 joint. Him and Dog Pound. Because, oh, y'all niggas is violating. You know what I'm saying? So now, me and the Dog Pound gonna do this diss track. He got the call, you know, and gotta give a big shout out to Big D and Every B, because they was like, yo, Pac, it's not the whole New York. Pac was like, yo, y'all niggas do this to me and NY. And he had a lot of love for New York, man. And like, people like to say, oh, Pac was this and Pac was that, and Pac was a real dude, man. Stand-up dude, you know. And, you know, a lot of people even said, you know, even with the story of dudes hold him down. Dudes did hold him down. Pac didn't leave. People gotta get it clear. Pac was in population in Clinton Correctional Facility. He didn't get in segregation on PC until September 95, towards him leaving the prison. He was around a lot of people, so he's around dudes like Kool-Aid from Howard, you know, Webb and Bush hitter, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to him, Free Kool-Aid, right? Official Tissue. That's the Smith & Wesson tile. A lot of people don't know that. The Smith & Wesson tile is right there. You know what I'm saying? But that's for another story. You know, Rap, Freddie Fox, he the one called Rap. See, a lot of people don't understand. Pac even said it. Yo, the Spanish niggas he said it, the Puerto Rican niggas holding me down in here and making sure I'm good in here. He said that out of his own mouth. He said that in his own mouth. He said, yo, the Puerto Rican niggas holding me down in here. He said it in his interview where he got his head grown and he got the tan shirt on. He said it, yo. He talked about how much love he got for the Puerto Rican cats that held him down. The rat hunters was holding him down in jail because the dude Bush, Derek Hamilton, was trying to get Pac hurt in jail. Yeah, Derek Hamilton, yeah, from the same Derek Hamilton that, you know, that Baby Sam did what he did. You know, the same Derek Hamilton that, you know, that had his issues with World and all that. You know, this Derek Hamilton, you know, he was tight. You got to remember, he was tight with Jimmy Henchman. Him and Jimmy, their relationship go back in the 80s, him, Jack, and Jimmy. So he was trying to get Doodles to set it off on Pac. And that's the reason why, you know, Freddie Fox, who made the call of Rat, Supreme Magnetic brother, he even said it in the interview on Sway. I'm going to post it up on my page where he talks about holding Pac down. You hear Kool-Aid speaks about that. Yeah, Kool-Aid from Howard speak about how he was holding down, how him and Pac was chopping it up, how he made sure Pac was good. It was dudes in there that was holding Pac down. And it wasn't no revolutionary dudes. Pac spoke about them niggas. If you listen, he spoke about the revolutionary dudes that was in there. He spoke about that in his interview, what he did with Vibe magazine. Wasn't revolutionary, it was street dudes. Like Kool-Aid, like Supreme, like Charlie Rock LD that held Pac down in Clinton Correctional Facility. Because like I said, Bush, Derek Hamilton, was basically, and how Pac felt that they was really, he thought that Big and them was having these dudes, having Derek Hamilton, Bush, you know, go at him because Lil' Kim was coming to visit, you know, Derek Hamilton. And he's like, oh, yo, they homeboys in jail talking. Who he was talking about was Bush. He was talking about Derek Hamilton, who was in there taunting Pac, bragging about it. That's who he was talking about. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. But what people don't understand was, like, Jack was an agent. You know, Jack started a lot of that East-West beef. You know, Jack was what William O'Neal was to the Panthers. See, when people got to look at it, that whole East-West beef was Cointelpro 3.0 for the 90s. You know, Cointelpro 2.0 was the crack era. 3.0 was the hip-hop game. And you had guys like, you had Haitian Jack and his crew that was basically sent to destroy a lot of dudes. And Pac went to jail, was mad. Like, yo, I was loyal to niggas, and this is what niggas do to me. And dudes set me up. I go try to do a verse, and this is what dudes do. You know what I'm saying? Because he really didn't want to do the verse. You know what I'm saying? He really didn't want to rock with Sean. He really just didn't want to do it. But he was, you know, at the time, Interscope wasn't giving him no money. You know, and Death Row came through for him. Interscope, like, every time I heard Interscope and dudes from Interscope say, oh, yeah, we did. That man was calling for his money, and they never sent him a dime of his money. Even though his album did well, they didn't send him a dime of his money. You know what I'm saying? While he was in prison. Until Suge came. So, fast forward, right? Because, like, I was listening to Fredro Starr, what he said, like, they was all cool. There wasn't no East-West beef. That was something that was made up by Vibe magazine. That was something that was made up by the music industry. That was something that the government and the police wanted to make made up. That's why they created the hip-hop police. You know what I'm saying? See, people don't understand is the feds was watching Pac and Biggie and Bad Boy and Death Row. They was watching them. That whole 96, before Pac passed, they was being investigated. Feds is watching them, right? Same with Bad Boy. Pac, if you look at that video, Reggie Pops helps out Orlando. Keefy D was made to say that he was the supposed shooter of Tupac. When it was all said and done, he was never the shooter of Tupac. No, let me rephrase that. His nephew was never the shooter of Tupac. The story never made sense because what a lot of people don't know is before the situation, Zip and Pac and Suge and them was all chilling with each other. Big D, Zip, Eric B. They all was chilling with each other when Pac came to New York. Zip never gave Keefy D no gun. That was a lie made up by Greg Kading. Greg Kading lied. What happened is that the Rampart division had a hand in the death, and they even exposed themselves every time they talk about it. The feds, Russell Poole said it, and even Reggie Wright even exposed the cops like Kevin Gaines and David Mack, saying, you know, that Warren G talking about the walkie-talkie when they hear when Pac gets hit. You know what I'm saying? They at Snoop crib. You know what I'm saying? You hear Michael Moore speaking about it. You hear Frank Alexander saying what they believe. But everybody wanted people to believe the whole Orlando Anderson. Orlando Anderson was nothing but a patsy that they placed there. So when the real actual thing happened, they'll make it seem like it was gang, but it wasn't. It's just like what they did back in the days with the Panthers. It's like what they did with Malcolm X. Look at how Malcolm X died. They made it seem like Malcolm X had beef with the nation, and then it was a nation member that killed him. Come to find out, William Bradley, who was an informant, was the one that murdered. And the police knew he was going to be murdered. Eugene Roberts and the other cop, they knew he was going to be murdered. And Eugene Roberts, what is a coincidence, was the same cop that infiltrated the Panthers, which the Panthers 21, which was dealing with his mother. So, with that all being said, Kevin Gaines and David Mack was the ones that was in that Cadillac. Kevin Gaines was the one that murdered Pac. But they want you to believe that, nah, it wasn't Kevin Gaines. It wasn't that. It was gang members. If you really look at the thing and what it would the breakdown, Yak, look at Yak, look at Yaki death, right? And Hussein Fatal called it out, but look at Yaki death, right? Yak gets murdered. Yak was the one that seen everything that happened. He never described Orlando Anderson. Never. right? Yaki seen when they was shooting at the car. Yaki was going, like they said, they didn't want Yaki to expose or tell what really happened. So they had to clean house and knock Yak off. He was murdered. You know what I'm saying? And Napoleon, and I can understand why young Noble feel the way he feel, because Napoleon know what happened to Yak. This is the reason why Fatal was mad and ain't want nothing to do with them niggas, because it was like, yo, my little brother got killed. It's somebody like my little brother. It's bad enough Pac get killed, but my little mans get killed. So he felt some type of way about that, and then come to find out, you know, Napoleon's cousin kills him. He kills him. His mother don't agree with the story that her son was basically, you know, killed by accident. It's not no accident. Because the way he was shot wasn't no accident. It was intended for him to die the way he died. In them projects. You know what I'm saying? And his stories, you know, because after what happened to Pac, Yak was doing big things out there in Jersey on some street shit. And they had to get him out. Because he knew too much. See, that whole theory of Orlando Anderson, that whole theory of Poochie, they all try to say, oh, Suge placed the hit on Big and Puff placed the hit on Pac. That wasn't true. Big, Puff, Suge, it wasn't deep like that for them to kill Pac. Big, wasn't deep like that. That hit was deeper than that. Pac knew why he fired Reggie Wright. He knew why he fired David Kenner. Because there was shystiness going on. They needed Pac out the way, but they really needed Suge out the way. But Pac died off of a casualty of the situation. But it was supposed to be all four of these dudes dying. You know? Because it wasn't supposed to go the way it was supposed to go that night. You know? It was deeper than what people believe, because people only wanted to believe that it was hip-hop. That it was Pac having this so-called that. It was man-made, manufactured. It was manufactured. For people to believe that it was a so-called East and West beef. When Kevin Gaines got murdered, right? When Kevin Gaines got murdered, for people don't understand, he knew too much. That's why he got murdered. Greg Caden wasn't a lead detective in that case. They didn't want to solve Biggie nor Pac's murder. They wanted out of the crosshairs. So what Greg Caden did was try to clear the LAPD to make it seem like, nah, it was never like that. We got to clear it up. But what people don't understand is that it was deeper than what people thought. Like I said, you hear the audio with Reggie Wright and Sharita, Suge's ex-wife, speaking about Kevin Gaines and how he was Snoop security. You hear the stuff that was said. And it was some crooked stuff going on. The LAPD had everything to do with the situation. The Rampart scandal showed that Gaines, Perez, and Mac had a hand in Biggie and Pac's death. But they switched it up to make it seem like, nah, had nothing to do with Pac murder. Had nothing to do with Big murder. Nah. That's gang shit. Gang members killed them. But when you really look deeper into it, wasn't no gang shit. Them dudes had something to do with the hand in the murder of Pac and Big. They had to get them out the way. Frank Lager murdered Kevin Gaines because he knew too much and he became a liability. So they had to get Son out the way. But when you really look at it and you really take a look at this whole case and you really see that this wasn't about no East-West shit. It was deeper than Big. It was deeper than Pac. It had a lot to do with crooked cops involved in street activities. And they was the ones that had a hand in the death. You know? David Mack and Kevin Gaines had hands in that man's death. You know? People just don't want those facts to come out because they wanted the suspenseful thing of street dudes, gang members, is involved in the death. And we know that wasn't true. You know? And we know it never was no gang members. And we know that it was what it was. The police. You know, the movie Training Day is based on these dudes. You understand what I'm saying? And the proof is in the pudding that Gaines and Matt had a hand in Biggie and Pac death. And that's what people got to understand. They were so quick to blame Suge and Puff because they going by the fact of, oh, it was East-West beef. These dudes had to do it. And that was far from the truth. Far from the truth. But it is what it is. Salute, it's your boy Bullet Scotty. Be blessed.